Welcome to our Investing in LEGO series brought to you by the Toy Talk guys. Today we're discussing set number 21316, the Flintstones. For my overall opinion, this set is a solid investment. This is the first and possibly last time we're getting these cartoon icons in LEGO form. There's so much to like about this set. For starters, let's talk about those printed pieces. From the curtains, to the mailbox, to the woolly mammoth print in the living room, there are tons of unique printed pieces in this set that are sure to drive value in the long run. There's also my favorite printed piece, the television set, which is tuned to a local news program reporting on a story that Dino, the Flintstones' beloved dinosaur pet, is missing. This doesn't seem to bother Fred though. Look how delighted he is. Which brings me to one of my only gripes about this set, the minifigures. Don't get me wrong, these are pretty great. This is the first time that we're getting these iconic characters in LEGO form, but there's something a little off about them. It's hard for me to pinpoint what it is. I think it might be the eyes because Betty looks the best in my opinion and her eyes closely match those in the show. One thing I really love is that they printed all their clothing, especially the tails of those tunics and dresses. Typically LEGO would use fabric pieces to recreate the bottoms of clothes like that, but I prefer printing directly on the legs because those fabric pieces tend to deteriorate over time. I hope this leg printing is the trend LEGO continues in the future. Other than the printed pieces and the minifigures, the set itself is really fantastic. You're getting all of the memorable components of the show, the house, the foot-powered car, and even a little bowling scene. The car even comes with a giant rib to recreate the gag from the intro of the show, where the car topples over. That was something the original fan designer included, and I absolutely love that LEGO decided to keep it in there. Alright, hopefully I've made my point now. This is an excellent set, and one that's sure to do well once it's retired. So with that in mind, let's get into the numbers. When it comes to estimating growth, there are a ton of LEGO sets in LEGO Ideas line that have come and gone that we can look to for guidance. However, there is so much variability between each of these sets in the Ideas line that I would like to focus my attention on just a few that most closely match the Flintstones. Those 5 sets are the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, Doctor Who, The Big Bang Theory, the Ghostbusters Ecto-1, and the DeLorean Time Machine from Back to the Future. All of these sets are based on characters or people from popular culture. Most are similarly priced, and aside from Ghostbusters, these are the only sets that exist for each of these licenses, not counting anything that appeared in LEGO Dimensions. To get a baseline, let's go back. Back to the Future. Back to the Future was the first set to retire in this group and has done very well. Originally selling for $35 before it retired in 2014, it's now fetching over $125 on eBay, a little over 5 years later. That's 3.5x growth in 5 years, which would serve as a good baseline for long-term success for a lot of these sets. While all that sounds great, the next 4 sets on our list do not paint the same story. The Ghostbusters, Doctor Who, Big Bang Theory, and the Beatles, they have all been retired for a period of 1 to 3 years, which is typically the sweet spot for selling. However, all these sets have only grown by roughly 50% at most. So what's the deal? I think what's the case with these sets targeted towards an older audience is that kids don't want this stuff. Your market for buyers once these sets retire is limited to adult collectors. In other words, instead of a huge swath of kids who are begging their parents for the set that they missed out on, you have a smaller group of adult collectors who might be new to the game who are looking to pick up some past icons. That being said, I think once you get to that 4 to 5 year mark on set retirement, you're going to see a sharp uptick in that value. These sets will be remembered as one-offs, oddities, just plain cool that they existed, and that's very appealing to collectors. I would argue that the Flintstones has a universal appeal to people young and old. The series originally debuted in the 1960s, and I vividly remember watching it as a kid in the 90s. Out of all the sets we just discussed, I would imagine the most kids today could identify the Flintstones. It's a cartoon, it's made for kids and families, and that's largely why I think it will buck a lot of these trends and do very well once it's fully retired, even if it takes longer than these other sets. Speaking of retirement, let's talk about that. Estimating retirement. The one thing I'll say about idea sets is that they are very unpredictable. Most sets are on shelves for 1 to 2 years. That seems to be the trend, but then other sets were really only available for a few days. Yes, days. The NASA Mars rover launched and retired in January 2014. It didn't even last longer than a week. Needless to say, its price in the aftermarket is ridiculous, but this and others like it are anomalies. You shouldn't go off of these. The Flintstones launched in early 2019, and I would expect it to retire around holiday 2020. That's close to 2 years on the market, and it's sure to see some discounts in that time frame. I would recommend picking it up when you see it at a nice 20% discount, right around that holiday 2020 mark. That's when I'll be picking mine up. And that concludes our analysis. Please remember that the information provided in this video is just my opinion and should not be considered professional investing advice. All investing involves risk, and you alone are responsible for that risk. If you would like to receive more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. See you all next time.